On this week's episode, a Woj bomb of a different kind for ESPN. What are the odds for pop culture? And is it good to be Giancarlo Esposito right about now? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos.
Welcome to the pop culture cosmos.
And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. I've been doing so many shows lately, I even forgot to change my name right below from Lakers Fast Break to Pop Culture Cosmos. I've done a ton of interviews for the Lakers Fast Break channel. I've got them recorded already and also a ton on the way. So if you get a chance and you're an NBA fan, check it out, the Lakers Fast Break. In fact, I will have not only one, but two interviews from those shows, parts of them anyways, that will be on today's program. I'm going to be talking to Rafael Esparza, the head oddsmaker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. He'll be talking about some of the great odds that are out there in pop culture that he helps create. Plus, also as well, I'm going to have Rafael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies. He's one of my favorite guests. Does a great job every time he's on the Lakers Fast Break. He and I are going to be talking about the latest controversy at ESPN in regards to Adrian Wojnarowski. And he usually breaks the story, but this time he is the story. We talk about that coming up here later in the program. But also, we're going to be talking about a lot of great things, including Ubisoft's conference and their own controversy coming up. What the heck is going on at Devolver Digital? I don't even know, but they're just out there. They're crazy, but a lot of people are loving what they're doing because they had their own digital conference, if you can even call it that. So I'm going to ask Josh his thoughts about that coming up. Plus, we're going to try and reach and get to Unsolved Mysteries, a record-breaking auction for a Super Mario cartridge, and so much more. But before we go ahead and talk about all that stuff, it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. His awesome podcasts, Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast, plus also as well his terrific book, Congratulations You Suck, which is now available at Amazon.com and also Barnes & Noble. It is my good friend. Well, he says he's Josh the Underwhelmed. It is Josh Peterson, our own Giancarlo Esposito. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up? So occasionally we'll talk about Mobile Suit Gundam on this show. And for those of you who don't know, Mobile Suit Gundam, The Origin, is now streaming on Hulu. And that is basically a retelling of the original Mobile Suit Gundam cartoon. Well, what I learned with this is that it's not something you can watch with kids, because this is the first time that they have ever shown nudity in a Gundam show. So it's a little more adult, but if you're not wanting to watch the original Gundam series from the 80s, this is a good alternative to it because it kind of shortens all the storylines. It goes from 50 episodes to 6 episodes. But yes, I am in the middle of it. I will have some thoughts on the complete series once I watch the last episode. But yeah, I'm digging it so far. So far.
You have the kids there when you watched it?
No, luckily, they were, everyone was in the other room. But I mean, it was shocking. It was not the Gundam of my teenage years.
Just like Disney Plus has just released X-Men Days from Future Past, and I bet a lot of kids, including my own, if they watch it, and I'm just realizing this as we speak, I heard the report that Hugh Jackman's booty is front and center, and they're not censoring it for Disney Plus. So I'm just realizing now that a lot of kids are going to be watching Hugh Jackman's butt, essentially, over the next few weeks and months as they watch X-Men Days of Future Past, which is probably to me the best X-Men movie, regardless of how you feel about Hugh Jackman's behind.
Let's be honest though, if your behind was immortal and constantly healed and looked that good, you would probably want to display it on Disney Plus also.
If they paid me enough money, heck yeah. But it is going to be a great episode. We got a lot of things to talk about. I wanted to go ahead first, Josh, and just something real quick. We haven't been able to acknowledge it on the show, and that's the passing of two outstanding contributors to the world of entertainment. Carl Reiner recently passed away, just a genius when it comes to comedy. Wanted to go ahead and acknowledge his passing. So many projects, television, film. Obviously, his son has done some great things as well within the realm of directing and comedy himself. But truly just an inspirational guy when it comes to the world of comedy. And the fact that he was part of the Ocean series, him and those movies were truly awesome as well. I want to hear your thoughts real quick on Carl Reiner, because he was in his late 90s, but still very much a beloved member of the Hollywood community.
Yeah, that was kind of it's weird because he's a star that I have not thought about in a long time, but I do, obviously I don't know his whole back catalog, but I do have fond memories of watching him in the Ocean series. It was really sad because I do remember like laughing. He was one of my favorite parts, not laughing as death, but I mean, laughing at the stuff I've seen him in. Like, he was my favorite part of Ocean's 11 was him. Is he related to Rob Reiner?
Absolutely. That's his father.
Okay, yeah. So I was just curious about that. But yeah, I mean, it's a total tragedy. The Hollywood is going to be at a loss without him. It's just we're seeing this like eventual passing of the old guard, and it's kind of sad to see.
Well, again, there's another passing of the old guard in the fact that Ennio Morricone. I know a lot of people out there don't know who he is, or was literally one of the best composers of all time. Not only did he create some of the most memorable music for a lot of the spaghetti westerns of the 1960s, but just so many other movies that he was part of and that he helped create, and soundtracks that he just went through and made. Just, like I said, Once Upon a Time in the West, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, even all the way up to The Hateful Eight here with the advent of that movie. I mean, there's so many other movies that he was a part of. Numerous Academy Award winner, Golden Globes winner, Grammys galore. He just one of the truly great composers of our time. Ennio Morricone, unfortunately, also passed away recently. And as someone who, I think also the Untouchables as well, I think he may help with that soundtrack. So many different soundtracks he was part of that were so memorable. The spaghetti westerns, I think, are the most remembered for him, but he is one of the greatest composers of our time.
I mean, I don't have too much knowledge of him. When you think of composers, you naturally think of people like John Williams and Danny Elfman and people like that. But I mean, it's sad to see talent like that go. The Untouchables was a great movie. It was really well scored. Let's just. I would hope to see a lot of like rising talent, but it also is sad to see some of the older talent going too. What's your thoughts on like Charlie Daniels though? I mean, do you remember
The Devil Went Down to Georgia? Yeah,
I mean, that's been in a lot of movies, and also I don't know if you've ever been down to what was that place in Buena Park that was by Medieval Times? Remember they had a Western show?
Yeah, but they also had a pirate show too.
Yeah, it's a pirate place now. I forget what it's called, but I mean, they had a big like Charlie Daniels theme thing. So I don't know. It's been a sad week for celebrities and pop culture icons, and I would hope that we don't have more weeks like this.
Absolutely, but we pay our respects to all three of those individuals. Thank you for the contributions that you made to us, or that you made for us, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But there's a lot more to talk about on today's program. And before we get to Rafael Esparza, because we've got not one but two Rafaels on today, head oddsmaker at MyBookie and DocSports.com, I want to ask you real quick, you saw Ubisoft's Forward Conference, whatever they're going to call it. They're going forward. Well, they kind of went backward because they didn't say any public statements about the allegations that they had with one of their studios overseas, that really bad issues in regards to harassment and things of that nature, that I think not one, not two, but three members of the studio or more have been let go because of some really bad stuff going down at their offices. But they did have their conference today. I want to hear your thoughts on the abuse allegations that are out there, but also, of course, the games. And isn't it great to be Giancarlo Esposito right now?
Yeah, that's
The Boys.
The
Boys, Mandalorian, and Far Cry 6. He's the guy starring in Far Cry 6.
He's the guy. He's the guy. I want to get to that in just a second. All the allegations we're talking about here, like it's interesting because to me, like that you hear a lot about things happening in gaming studios. Like it happens so much, and like it lately has not been surprising to say like, oh, Rockstar does this, or Telltale does this. Like it doesn't surprise me, or even like Quantic Dream does this. Like it's a lot of that stuff is just like, okay, whatever. What really surprised me was hearing this stuff coming out of Ubisoft, because all their games start out with that little thing saying like, hey, this was made by a team from multiple different religions, sexual orientations, genders, yada yada, all that stuff. So you think that like, okay, Ubisoft's pretty woke, like they know what they're doing here. And then you hear something like that and you're like, okay, well maybe it's there's more going on behind the scenes than we think. As for the director of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, how he cheated on his wife and stuff like that, I honestly, like, to me, that's not important to me. I mean, I know to some people like, oh, hey, he did this, he needs to. I don't think that's worthy of stepping down from your job. Like, that's just my thoughts on it. Like, your personal life is your personal life. Deal with it on your own time. But these other things coming in, hearing about how there's like sexual harassment and stuff like that within the studio, that is something that is quite shocking to me, because like I said, Ubisoft's always kind of prided themselves on being the diversity company, the company you go to if you're like have different beliefs on religion, gender, stuff like that. Like that is the company you go to. And so they didn't mention any of that because I think it's the news about it is so fresh. But they did show a lot of clips of people working in the studio, people designing characters, people designing levels, talking to employees. Like they showed a lot of stuff in that conference revolving around that. And it made me wonder if that's just good timing on their part, that they had that stuff prepared already, or if they had to, record stuff yesterday or today or whatever and kind of throw it in at the last minute because of these allegations. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, it had to have been. I mean, it's all about timing, my friend, and they had to, without going into that direction, they still wanted to go ahead and try and address something of that nature. But they obviously, like you said, they weren't going to go ahead and really get into it because they wanted to go ahead and focus on the games. But sometimes it's hard to focus on the games when so much is happening outside of the box. But they did make an impression today. I think they made a very good one with the gaming centric wise. So I want to ask you your thoughts real quick on how Ubisoft performed overall. I mean, Far Cry 6, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and all the things you can do there. Although none of it's really just outside of the box or really just something that's really new when it comes to Valhalla. Just they're adding some features in there that's going to make it more interesting. And of course, Watch Dogs Legion, got to see that. That's very entertaining. So I'm very interested on that. So I want to hear your thoughts on Ubisoft's conference when it comes to what the gaming part of it overall.
So the gaming part, it was no EA, and a lot of the stuff they showed was cool, and like I enjoyed watching it. But the fact that they dedicated like 15 to 20 minutes to mobile games really underwhelmed me. I was expecting to hear maybe something they hadn't announced before, something they hadn't talked about in a while, like Beyond Good and Evil 2 or Skull and Bones. Is that the name of the pirate game?
The pirate game that's been, seems like it's been development forever.
It'll never come out. It probably will never come out. But, or even like I would have loved to hear about an Assassin's Creed 1 remaster, because they've repackaged every Assassin's Creed game except for the first one. So on that note, and I know a lot of people are kind of disappointed that they didn't talk about a new Splinter Cell, or Prince of Persia. I know those properties, we will see one of those games within the next 5 years, but they don't seem to really have any intention on developing those at the moment. So as for the games,
and then Tom Clancy was done, like you said, on a mobile platform as opposed to
on a mobile platform.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, congrats! Here's we know you guys love Sam Fisher, but it's not the one that you were expecting. It's a mobile battle royale, and maybe people will enjoy playing this battle royale game, Hyperspace or whatever it's called. But I feel like that the effort and time and money could have been spent elsewhere, because there are too many battle royale games out there, and like Ubisoft is good at these big narratives, and I don't think they excel at multiplayer, except Rainbow Six. Watch Dogs Legion looks really good. I love the idea that like you can play as all these different people. I was talking to Brian Wegner on the Super BS Games cast about how he's talking about this idea about he's disappointed that they only have one or two antagonists. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you can literally play as anybody in this game, and I don't know if they're clinging to what they showed last E3, the fact that like once your character dies, you just jump into the next character, and I don't know if they're going to keep that going on, but I feel like with all these different characters you can play, you need to have some kind of constant in the game to keep, your narrative threaded. What are your thoughts on that, though? Do you think that the game needs a main antagonist, or do you think that it can exist all on its own without something like that?
I think it's different. I think it's a unique approach to it. But again, it's only going to be as entertaining as the protagonist that you're actually using. Like, okay, you're going to be... Well, it's so weird because, will you be playing the same way whether you have an 85-year-old woman or whether you're playing as a 35-year-old man? I know they've showcased it as such, and that's the way they want to perceive it, but I'd like a little bit different. And I like, if I'm playing as an older individual, I like this. There's some attributes there that maybe would hinder me or make it more difficult. Or if I'm playing someone younger, I may be able to take advantage of certain things. Just make sure everything that, every time I get into a new individual, that it's going to be entertaining. That it's going to be something that I want to go ahead and keep playing. Because if I start getting bored as you keep on jumping into individual after individual, that it's going to be not as fun as it was when I first started, then I'm not going to go ahead and continue. I'm not going to go ahead and keep on playing.
Well, if you look at it, all the different people, and I don't know if they're going to be different classes. I was wondering about this too. Like, Watch Dogs is notorious for having, you have a construction worker on this corner, and then you walk a couple blocks over, and you're going to encounter the same modeled construction worker, right? All these characters all look the same. All the people, there's no diversity in the people. You have maybe 10 different models just scattered throughout the city. With this one, I'm curious if they're going to have that, or it's going to be something like the, what was it? It was Assassin's Creed Unity, right? That had literally a city just packed with all these different models. The processing on the game was really slow, but it looked kind of cool. So I'm wondering if they're going to have something like that. Obviously, like they showed the construction worker, right? He has the nail gun. They showed the old lady. She has the handgun. They showed a couple of the different hacker classes, and they can control bots and do their drones and stuff like that. What was really cool was that the Irish, did you see the Irish guy that they showed? So you get into the Irish guy, and you actually you have I don't want to call it like a alcohol tolerance, but like the more you drink, the better that those berserking options are. Like the more hits you can take, and the harder you can swing. So like, I think stuff like that's kind of cool, but I have an issue with the fact that like you're dumping time and effort into characters that could just die, and that's my biggest beef with the game. But I am excited about it. Not excited enough to go back and play any of the old Watchdog games, but it is something I am looking forward to.
You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos. Don't touch that dial. Wait, do people still use dials?
For the latest news and information, analysis and opinions on the Los Angeles Lakers and the NBA, check out the Lakers Fast Break podcast today on wherever you get your podcasts. I want to go ahead and say that Far Cry 6, I'm very intrigued on seeing more of. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's throwing a lot of stuff out there. I'm not sure if it's going to really enhance the game, but yeah, you can get more people to fight with you. You can build more stuff, resources. It's expanding the game in different ways. None of this is earth-shattering, but it's just making the experience a lot more detailed for those playing Assassin's Creed.
So my hope with Assassin's Creed, and I don't want to talk about Far Cry in a second, my hope with Assassin's Creed is that they take the mechanics that worked really well in Odyssey and they improved upon them. I didn't see a lot in terms of like naval warfare. Obviously we have some stuff going on with the boats, but that's only for the raids. And I think that would be a huge disservice to the franchise if they didn't have some kind of naval battles in there. As for the main character himself and the quest and all that, or him or herself and the quest that you go on, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that now that Odyssey has introduced the Isu, which is basically the first civilization, the Isu, now that they have introduced the ancient gods as being Isu, do you think that they need to carry that on? Do you think that needs to continue into Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or do you think that they're good just moving past that? Do you think there needs to be some kind of? I think that there needs to be some kind of like supernatural element in the game, but Brian from Super BS, he disagrees with me on that. What are your thoughts?
Anything to extend it out, because you got to remember, even though it's no longer a year by year franchise, it's still every other year, still a franchise that is brought out frequently. So you need as many things as you can throw in there as possible, and if the supernatural end of it becomes something that people can latch onto, I'd say all for it, man, because anything right now outside of the just the similarities, and I appreciate Ubisoft trying to make things more vast and more different each and every time you're playing Assassin's Creed, because they realize you can only do so much. Hunt, see my target, kill my target. Okay, that's great. But if you're trying to expand the universe even more, you're going to have to go ahead at least try some of the things, and that would include the supernatural, especially what you're seeing right now within the realms of what we're seeing, or what could be possibly be seeing with Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah, I hope so, because there's really only so many places their narrative can go from this point. I really love the idea of playing as Vikings, and because the Norse gods they're just messed up. They're completely messed up. And I think that it would be a cool, thing to see embodied by these Isus, by the Isu in terms of like where their narrative can go. Are we going to end up with some kind of like really compelling God of War type story, or is it just going to be another like bland Assassin's Creed game? So I'm all about the narrative. I don't know how everyone else just kind of likes the mechanics, but I really hope for a strong narrative and some good like supernatural elements that kind of carry on, because they've done a good job of carrying on stories from Origins and Odyssey. And now I'm hoping the story from Odyssey kind of carries on into, or there's references to Odyssey within this game.
I agree with you. Anything to expand the universe and make it more interesting. I've not been the biggest fan of Assassin's Creed. I know it depends on the Assassin's Creed, and the ones that are more widely accepted and the one that's more widely loved, I seem to latch onto, and the ones that are like on the fence or below, I don't even get interested in. To me, you need that hook, and that will help me have that hook to buy me in as far as someone who wants to play it down the road.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, there's been so many of them that it's not even about like carrying on the game. To me, it's about connecting them together, making it feel like each of these entries is not playing them is not a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, last but not least, on the major announcements or the major showcases for the Ubisoft Forward Conference was Far Cry 6. Now, mind you, it didn't really show any gameplay or anything of that, but it did show a lot of Giancarlo Esposito, who is, like I said before, sizzling hot right now. Mandalorian, The Boys, and also Far Cry 6 coming out in February is Far Cry 6, or at least it's scheduled to. As you know, it's always subject to change. But it looks like he is a dictator, teaching his son the ropes, again battling against those who are trying to revolt, as an opposing force. It looks like something that could be very interesting. I'm very intrigued by it, and I haven't been intrigued by too many Far Cry games in the past. What are your thoughts on Far Cry 6 before we head on to what the is going on at Devolver Digital?
So with Far Cry 6, I'm intrigued. I want to know more. Like, who are you going to play as the son? He's been forced to become this monster thanks to his dad. Are you going to play as a son? Or are you going to play as a rebel? This seems to kind of mirror, what's going on with, or has gone on in the past with Cuba, much like the Far Cry 5 kind of mirrored what was going on with that cult in Montana. I'm curious, like, how far they're going to push the envelope on this, but I really love the Far Cry games. I wasn't a huge fan of Primal, but I did love, Far Cry 4 and 5. Never played New Dawn. What I really loved about 5 was that the world was so interesting. It's so vibrant, so many colors. The characters were fun to talk to. I hope to get some of that with Far Cry 6 because I feel like it's been not enough time between 5 and 6. So I hope that this doesn't feel like a rushed game.
I was going to say the same thing about, Primal and the one right before it. There was really no type of buffer between those two games.
Yeah, well, that was like Far Cry 5 and Far Cry New Dawn. Like, there was, 6 months between the game
because
coming out?
Because it was basically, New Dawn was just a flip reverse of...
is leftover assets, I'm sure, with just a few, different color palettes added in there. But I just I don't like rushed games, and this is already, I feel like this is a setting that has already kind of been tackled by Far Cry. So I would hope that it's a good game. The narrative is good. It's just it has the magic of what makes Far Cry so special.
And last but not least, on another video game presentation, if you can call it that, was the wild, as seemingly now that they do every year, over-the-top presentation at Devolver Digital. I'm going to say this right now. Devolver Digital, as far as on the food chain, is on the smaller side. They're not independent, but they're one of those few developers that are in between AAA and the independent. And there's really not that many developers in between. They qualify to me as one of those developers, and they need something to stick out. And they seem to, every year when they go just all out, craziness, just the whole presentation of the way they do things. And oh yeah, they show off some games. I think they showed maybe like less than 10 minutes of the actual 40-minute presentation on the games. But if you're a big fan of what they do, you didn't care because it was just so wild, just so crazy. The antics of some of the people that work there and the way they go about it, and the video game celebrities that they involved. Your friend Jeff Keighley, once again. They had Xbox boss. They had one of the PlayStation bosses. They had Suda51. They had major names there going ahead and just little bit parts and comedic stuff. And it was all in good fun. And then they showed the games. And the games, they don't look AAA rate. But again, I love Serious Sam. Always willing to play it. They had some weird games coming up as well. And then they had Shadow Warrior 3, which is looking pretty good. But again, these are not top shelf, top of line games. But the way they promote it, I think, is second to none. And if you want to go ahead and check out something wild and outrageous, check out what the heck that they're doing at Devolver Digital.
Yeah, so Devolver Digital, they've always been known for that. They've always been someone like right at the cusp of AAA gaming, but not quite breaking that ceiling. And their shows have always been outrageous in their own right. They've always had something that kind of takes you by surprise. I'm not a huge fan of their games. I don't play a lot of them. Serious Sam, I do enjoy. The Samurai game looks kind of like a knockoff of a lot of other games that are out there. There's nothing there that I want to play right now. And, that doesn't mean that I won't eventually try to play these games, but it wasn't something I was super impressed with.
What it's wrapped in is so wild and so crazy. And I think they know that they need to go ahead and have these outrageous performances that gets people excited. It gets social media awareness. It gets all those things that people seem to care about, that gets them at least an eye on their products. Whether or not they play them, that's a different story. And as you know, they still don't have that one quintessential hit that is going to put them over the top yet. But like you said, at least that keeps them there out in the forefront. And until such time they find and research and have that hit that they can develop, they're at least going to go ahead and keep within the public eye with these outrageous presentations that they're going to have year in, year out, whether it's at E3 or whether it's not. What are your thoughts out there on what's going on with what was shown off at the Ubisoft Forward conference? And also, what in the world is going on at Devolver Digital? We'd love to hear your thoughts on each. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com, or also as well PopCultureCosmos at Humanica Media and GameSource on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And now Pop Culture Cosmos is on TikTok. Coming up next, we've got Rafael Esparza, heads oddsmaker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. Plus, right after that, Rafael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies. And on the back end of the show, Josh and I are going to be doing some quick talking about some unsolved mysteries and the record-breaking auction for a Super Mario cartridge. That and more coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Coming soon, Zero Cool Films presents Action Figure Adventure. Super collector Jay Bartlett hits the road once again in search of action figures' most iconic and noteworthy and rare figures, all in the name of creating the most ultimate action figure auction ever. He fronts the cash that charity benefits in the end. What will he get? How will he get it? And how well will he do? Find out November 1st, 2020.
If you want to know what the odds are out there and what Vegas is saying, I've got a great guest on today. You got to catch what he's doing today at DocSports.com and also MyBookie. He has over 14 years of experience as a sportsbook manager at 4 of the biggest, most well-known sportsbooks on the Vegas Strip. He's the heads odds maker at MyBookie. You got to check out all the great stuff that he's doing today at DocSports.com. He's the Vegas Sports Informer. It's Rafael Esparza. And Rafael, thanks for joining us once again on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Some of the things that you now can go ahead and lay odds on or lay insight on, you're going ahead and doing today on these great sites. In fact, I saw some of your work on the WWE, which is in the past 2-3 years, I'd say, really grown as far as odds making is concerned, especially a lot of offshore stuff as well. I've seen a lot of odds that just would love to throw my money down because it throw my experience on there as far as what I know and what I understand about the world of professional wrestling or entertainment. I've seen your odds on a lot of the stuff going on with the Kardashians, which is quite amusing and all that. So just a lot of great things there in pop culture. And I want to hear some of the more interesting aspects of the pop culture realm that you love to go ahead and throw odds on, and some of the more interesting ones that your followers go ahead and lay money on as well.
Well, really quick on the wrestling, people always say, how do you put odds on when they already know the results? On pay-per-views, especially the bigger pay-per-views, the wrestlers do not know the results until either they're walking into the ring or the ref tells them when they got into the ring. So that's why everyone says, I can't believe you're putting odds on stuff that they already know the outcome. Pay-per-views, they don't know the outcome right away. Hello, look at Brock Lesnar when he beat The Undertaker. 40-1 that day. And if you watched Undertaker's recent show on WWE, him and Vince McMahon fought for an hour and a half because Vince McMahon did not want Undertaker to lose that match. And finally, Undertaker told Brock Lesnar during the match, hey, you're going to win this. And Brock Lesnar didn't believe him for like 15 minutes. So it was a great storyline. But the stuff that we're putting out right now, I mean, I got odds on America's Got Talent. We're putting on that. You can bet, will the Golden Buzzer win the America's Got Talent? The nose minus 140. Just posted some odds. The season 4 or the Handmaid's Tales. I don't know if you watched that, but you can bet a whole bunch of cool stuff. Would this be the last season of Handmaid's Tales? Alfred die on season 4 if you don't watch it. So it's a great stuff on there. It's just fun putting out entertainment. I can't wait till the movies come back because I had a whole bunch of Halloween Kills betting prop bets because I had Halloween betting prop bets for the first movie and they got huge action. It was actually published in a couple entertainment magazines with how many that's what Michael Myers have with a knife. That was one of our popular betting prop bets. So I can't wait for the movies to come back, but I love pop culture and I'll put anything that trends on social media. I'm going to put a betting number on it. So if you have anything that's trending that you want me to see odds on, please send it to me on my Twitter at VSI.Sports because I love to add more entertainment prop bets because let's face it, it's water cooler talk. And I love people to talk about stuff that you can actually bet on or just actually talk about and laugh about.
It's funny because, like you said, you're some of the most interesting odds you put out there. Blumhouse decided to go ahead and push that back. Like all these movies are getting pushed back, and that's the question.
So sad.
It is, and That's the question with a lot of these movies these days, or some of the things that you might want to put odds on. How many times will this movie get pushed back? In some of these cases, it's now gone up to 3, 4, and 5 times even. So it's crazy what it's going on now, and very unfortunate that we as movie fans cannot go ahead and see these movies because of the continual ongoing things that are going on with the coronavirus. But yeah, for a great water cooler talk like you're talking about, it's funny because you see all those great things that you're posting odds on, whether it's The Handmaid's Tale or like the WWE. And with the WWE, there are rumors, and you've heard on the quote unquote dirt sheets and all the other insiders there that talk about when they see a lot of action on the odds from people such as yourself, sometimes that influences the decision. Say, you know what? If that's what the public feels, I think we're going to go in a different way as far as the result is concerned. So I've heard that being tossed about as far as possible reasonings behind some of the results that you've seen out there. But you're right. In a lot of cases, they don't know until they go out there, or like you said, the ref lets them know, or when they show up to the arena, they don't know exactly whether they're going to win or lose. So that's part of the interesting thing about betting on, like you said, the WWE, All Elite Wrestling, and pro wrestling as a whole. But there's so much out there in pop culture you can bet on. The Emmys are coming up. So the voting's already out as far as for Emmys that are out there. I know Variety has their choices on who they think is the favorites, who they think is might have a chance, and the long shots indeed. And I know you're starting to formulate a plan, I would assume, for the Emmys. But before we head on out, I just want to ask this. For all the different things that you talk about, what's the most enjoyable aspect as far as your job is concerned?
Oh, it's got to be the research. I mean, I just did a full big betting spreadsheet for Shark Week. We tagged 9 great whites tagged in the world, and Shark Week's doing it. So I did odds on what shark would be tagged first, did a whole thing for that. And the research for that was just outstanding. I did a whole bunch of our work for Newsweek for celebrity breakups. And so doing research for that, for marriages that's going to last, and odds on that, I think the research has to be the fun thing. Because like I said, anyone can do an NFL Week 1 odds, something like that. You can either copy someone else's and have them done in an hour. But putting up odds for great white sharks or movies or TV odds or stuff like that, that's when you have to really go dive in and start looking at cast, rumor mills, blogs, writers and stuff like that. That's the fun work of doing the research for it. And like I said, I don't care if not $1 gets bet on it, but if someone looked at it and talked about it, it gives me pleasure.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is going to be a lot of pleasure derived from all the odds that you put out there, whether it's if Stranger Things season 4 will be the last one, or...
Well, I'm already working on Stranger Things probably this weekend when I'm watching UFC 251.
Well, there you go. Exactly. So all the great odds, all the great stuff that he's talking about, please go ahead and check out Rafael's work today at MyBookie and DocSports.com. You'll be glad you did. There's a lot of things going out there. If you're really into the betting scene, all the great odds, all the great stuff that he's talking about, please go ahead and check out Rafael's work today at MyBookie and DocSports.com. You'll be glad you did. And as the Vegas sports informer, I'm sure a lot of people are always up to date on what you're doing out there. So what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me if you have questions is a Twitter. You can follow me at VSI.sports. You can follow me on Instagram, Rafael Esparza. Those are probably 2 best places to jump on in if you have any questions on betting, on numbers. If you're looking to bet something, you can't find it, I'll post it up. I love when people tell me, hey, I want to bet this movie or bet this fight or bet this game that's being played in Japan, Korea, whatever. If you put a betting number up, I'll research it and I'll put a betting number up. So feel free to chime on in. Again, on Twitter at VSI.sports and Instagram, Rafael Esparza.
Well, there you go. Rafael, it's just been so great having you on the show today. I want to get you back on at a later point in time so you can go ahead and update your odds with us here at the Lakers Fast Break. But the Pop Culture Cosmos always want to go ahead and hear more about what the odds are out there in pop culture. So I'm looking forward to having you back on again real soon. Once again, it's Rafael Esparza, a.k.a. the Vegas Sports Informer. You got to go ahead and check out, once again, what he's doing today at MyBookie and DocSports.com.
Hey, this is Chad from Ghost Toasters, and you're listening to Pop Culture Cosmos Podcast.
I'm going to give you a little bit of insight what happened earlier this week. In fact, we were going to go on a certain day. We finished a conversation, and I asked him if he could go on. He said, hold up, Gerald. Wait just a day. Wait a day, and so much more news, I bet, will come on out. And you know what? I think I'm going to bring him over here to Las Vegas and start betting on some stuff because he's got some insight. He called it, and he called it right. It is my good friend indeed from NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out what he and his entire staff of great people are doing today at NBA Draft Junkies on YouTube and NBA Draft Junkies on Anchor, going to Apple Podcasts, going to Spotify, and of course his great site, NBADraftJunkies.com, is my good friend. And I'm going to have to call you a savant. It is Rafael Barlowe, and first off, man, you called it. You called it, man.
I didn't I didn't know that it would be like this, but I just knew, like, you know, yesterday was the first day everybody got to the bubble, so I figured that there was going to be some type of news, whether it's somebody complaining about their food or their room, but I wasn't expecting a Woj bomb.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, he questioned the NBA's motives in regards to China, plus also talking about the statements that are there in regards to what can and cannot be said during the course of their bubble situation, as far as what should be on the jerseys, what would they like on the jerseys. And you and I have spoken about this before on past episodes of Lakers Fast Break. Well, in response to this, because Senator Hawley sent it out, I guess, as a letter to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, and he was asking why that there's not more an allowance of things like support our troops and back the blue on their jerseys in 2020. And he questioned the league's relationship with China. But in response to it, Adrian Wojnarowski, who as a reporter should be reporting on this, but not really trying to interject himself into this, that's when I think you're overstepping the bounds. At least that's what I was taught in journalism school. He did reach out to Senator Josh Hawley, and despite whether you agree or not to agree with the statements like support our troops and back the blue on the jerseys, similar to what we will be seeing as far as for the Black Lives Matter movement, and also anything regarding to social justice and racial equality that will be represented there during their time there. Wojnarowski's response was basically to say, quote unquote, F you, with the full profane word in there. So I want to hear your thoughts on that, and most importantly, because this could and will be blowing up big time, except for on ESPN, which is actually not reporting it outside of what Wojnarowski has apologized for on Twitter. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, and where do you think it will go from here? Because for Adrian Wojnarowski, who is the major NBA insider, this can't go well.
This is a tough one because, like I said, with the players, as far as their accommodations, I try to see both sides, both trains of thought, and both sides of the fence. And so from what the senator said, coming from his point of view, it does make some sense that
and if that's his opinion, that's his opinion.
That's his opinion, yeah. But I think that he should have known that expressing his opinion about that at this particular time is definitely going to draw some opposition, which it did, and which is why Woj, which I'm shocked that Woj even, like you said, interjected himself. I'm shocked that he left a paper trail, like in an email. He said what he said. He didn't give an explanation of why. I mean, it was just pretty much F you.
And Senator Hawley actually made a screenshot of it to make sure that everybody knows that it came straight from Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yeah, anybody can email Woj now. I know his email address. It was definitely a bad look for Woj. I'm curious to see what ESPN does. I've seen someone say they probably should suspend him until at least the start of the start of the game. So I guess for 3 weeks. But I didn't realize that they hadn't reported it yet. I saw the email, I saw Woj's apology, and of course, if it's on Twitter, then you'll see all the details. But I haven't been on ESPN.com in the last few hours, and I didn't realize that they have not reported it. So that's why I'm curious to see what their next step is.
Because I'm going to look right now. I looked before we went on the air, and I looked, and I did not see it as one of the major headlines, and I still don't see it as one of the major headlines. And I'm scrolling through right now for our viewers, and I do not see it. This is not unlike ESPN, and that's her choice not to report it, but everybody outside of the ESPN's family and the ESPN zone is sure as heck jumping on it, and that's something that we've seen before from ESPN. When there's a scandal within ESPN, everybody else is going to report it.
Yeah, I think if it was Shams, it would be on ESPN right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And somewhere, wherever he's at, Shams is just salivating at this because he's considered the second or close to second. He's actually was the student, and Wojnarowski was the teacher while the two were together, I believe, for Yahoo Sports. And now,
yep.
And now Shams, who works, at a different location at the Athletic, if I'm not mistaken, and he will now be possibly even put him at the forefront of the insider, very competitive NBA inside knowledge and inside pipeline. But with Wojnarowski, I understand his feelings and his frustrations in regard to it. Whether or not you're liberal or conservative, whether or not you're on one side of the fence or the other, that's up to you. That's how you decide. But and I know that a lot of players will probably back Wojnarowski on this. But again, like I said, it comes to the point where this is a thing that, as a reporter, as a journalist, you're really not supposed to step over those bounds, and unless you're going on a show and you're talking, for all intents and purposes, a talking head like we see with Stephen A. Smith, and you're on your shows, and you can say that in a more family-friendly type of way. But doing this directly at a senator that posted this, that's, to me as a journalist, that might have not been the best call.
You think? Yeah, it definitely wasn't something that was well thought of. And he wasn't even on the email, right? He just emailed the guy directly.
Yes.
I mean, it's so unprofessional to email someone directly and all you send them is F you. I mean, you don't even really do that to like an enemy. So I'm shocked that he did it. But on the flip side of it, he may have gained some respect from some of the players because it looks like he supports their cause and he supports, how the players feel. And
that's good to me. And that to me, I really, truly appreciate it. But it's the way you go about it sometimes that doesn't help everything that's going on.
But, it could actually work in his favor because
I hope so.
Well, I was always under the impression, and this is just my opinion, and I know Shams, I've met Woj once, but I've always was under the impression that Woj gets his information from the front offices. Shams gets his information from the players. So there's a little divide between them. So I always felt like if a player had something that he wanted to say or break, he's going to go to Shams before he would go to Woj. I mean, unless they hire Shams or decide to bring in maybe like somebody like Chris Haynes from Yahoo, I don't think they'd be willing to give up that competitive edge as far as breaking news.
And again, I hope this won't cost him his position with the company. He is such an outstanding reporter, and whether or not you're on the right or left on this situation, and to go ahead and outright cut somebody because of this, I hope it's not done. I certainly hope it's not done. But I also certainly hope you don't send me any profane.
I don't even cuss in my normal everyday vocabulary, so I definitely won't be typing it and hitting send. Like, I don't know. I just, like I said, what's going to happen once you do that. You know it.
Absolutely. Especially
someone with a platform like a senator.
Absolutely, indeed. But my friend, it's been great talking to you once again. As always, I'm going to talk to you here soon next week. I got to have you on again with more hotel horror stories coming up from the bubble. I cannot wait.
Yeah, you never know. Something may break tomorrow or Sunday. So if we have to do an emergency podcast, I'll be available.
Sounds good, my friend. All the best to you. And again, just truly appreciate everything you do for us right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. And of course, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
If you need your video game fix, be sure to check out Retro City Games. Located in Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard or in Henderson, Nevada, Retro City Games has the cure for all your video game vices. Retro games and games for current consoles, Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, Xbox, and more. Retro City Games has all the staples from any library and some highly collectible offerings too. So pick up a few games today at Retro City Games in Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard or in Henderson, Nevada. Retro City Games is your video game metropolis.
And we're back to close out the show. This is Pop Culture Cosmos. Cannot thank enough Rafael Esparza, heads oddsmaker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. Let's also as well Rafael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out his YouTube page, his awesome site, and also his great podcast today, NBA Draft Junkies. You just type that in and all of it comes right up. My friend, before we head on out, the Batman spinoff from the Batman movie, Matt Reeves announced that they're going to do a spinoff television series coming to HBO Max centering around the, get this, Gotham City Police Department. Stop and tell me if I hadn't heard this before.
Yeah, I honestly, man, I'm not interested. Like, I feel like at this point there are too many worlds being created within the DC universe, and I don't have time. I was sitting down the other day. We just finished watching Stranger Things, seen it already, but as we're going through it again, and that was over, and I was trying to figure out like what I want to watch next. So we started watching Westworld. I have like 30 minutes at night to watch a show, or sometimes an hour, and I usually fall asleep during it. And Gotham, having a spinoff of Batman is just something that I probably will not watch. I did love the first few seasons of Gotham, but one, I don't know anything. I haven't seen the movie yet, and I don't know if the police in that world are going to be interesting, or Gordon, or whatever it might be. But this is not something that I am too keen on watching. But what are your thoughts?
I don't know if I'm going to go out of my way to watch it. I mean, it's got to get off to a good start. I might be interested to see it. And that's the Batman spinoff, focusing on the Gotham City Police Department, that's coming most likely between the Batman movie and, if it does well enough, a second The Batman movie, and it'll be coming to HBO Max. Speaking of streaming series, before we head on out, my friend, I want to ask you real quick, Unsolved Mysteries has returned. But this time, all the people that they're looking for, all the stuff that they're talking about, all the recreations and reenactments, all that stuff that you remember from the 90s and watching the Unsolved Mystery shows. It's coming back in a little bit more glossier, more high-produced format, and it's come back to Netflix. It's getting a pretty good response. In fact, I posted a story here earlier today, and it actually got a decent response. So I want to hear your thoughts on Unsolved Mysteries coming back to the world of Netflix.
There's so much on Netflix right now that, like, if you hadn't have told me about this, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. It sounds exciting. I always enjoy listening to podcasts and watching shows like that. I just hope that they're not just trying to make a show of a podcast. I hope that it's something that,
well, it's based off the television show from the 90s.
Right. I hope it's good. I hope it's not something like an A&E show, but again, like I don't have a lot of history in watching these shows, but it's something you're obviously interested in. So what are your thoughts on it?
I used to watch it back in the day. I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, I think, when the show actually was on the air. And at that time, we would gather around the TV and try to figure out the mystery for our own and find out exactly, how this person vanished or who murdered this person. That only is accentuated, like what you were, I think, alluding to when it comes to podcasts, that the boom of true crime podcasts that are out there has exploded onto the marketplace, and people's fascination with true crime and mystery and things of that nature has emanated from the days of the Twilight Zone back in the day. Now the Twilight Zone has come back again. Unsolved Mysteries, that was back in the day. Now it's come back again. So a lot of people are now just, their fascination and their just insatiable desire for mystery and true crime is there. And we've even talked about, doing behind the scenes, talk about true crime to some extent as well. And when it comes to Unsolved Mysteries, I think this is a very high gloss production of it. I think the values of it are much better than obviously what they could have conceived of back in the 90s. I think it's going over pretty well. And I know that for season 2, the showrunners and producers are already talking about ghosts as far as adding that element in there for season 2. So a lot of people are looking forward to it. In fact, when I posted the article today, people were already thumbs up and giving the hearts and all that. So a lot of people, I guess, are interested in Unsolved Mysteries. So going forward, I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be talking about. How much? That I'm not sure. I don't know if you're going to say it's the next Tiger King or if it's going to be one of the most watched on Netflix. We'll wait and see how well it stays on that list of most watched programs on Netflix. But it is Unsolved Mysteries. It's now back on the air. It's on Netflix. So people, hopefully you will get a chance, if you're interested in true crime and mystery, to go ahead and check it out on Netflix real soon. But my friend, before we head on out, I want to go ahead and talk about a record-breaking auction for Super Mario. That's right. A Super Mario cartridge that just went for $114,000. It's a rare, unopened copy of the classic Super Mario Brothers game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And you know, if... I'm thinking about Rob and Jay at a time like this with Nintendo. It comes to Nintendo Quest and all that. But when you hear that mind-boggling amount for the auction, what are your thoughts when it comes to Super Mario?
It gives me faith in the collectability of games. You know, you always hear stories about people like, oh, hey, this game was worth so-and-so. But then you have the issue of, like, trying to find someone to pay that. You know, for example, that Superman comic that went for, like, what, $2 million a couple years ago, something around there. It's just it gives me a lot of faith in collectability, and it goes to show this is one of those things which I imagine is going to drive the value of retro games up. If you're a collector and you're investing your money in stuff like this, like, it could very possibly have a return one day.
Hopefully, for a lot of people out there. And I know if we're going to be looking and scouring through their attics, through their basements, through their piles, through their closets, and through their libraries for any games that they think might be valuable. And I'm just interested to see where the market for these rare video games go from there. If Amazon's Crucible had come out in a box format, that would have been something I would have jumped all over, because if you didn't hear the news, Amazon's Crucible did so well, they just pulled it off as far as off the digital storefronts because it was a true disaster. And Amazon's next game, New World, they have now so little confidence in that, they have delayed that game indefinitely.
Crucible, from what I've heard, is the first game ever to go back into beta after being a fully released game.
That's right. They went back into closed beta. I wish there had been a hard copy of that, because I would have loved to get my hands on it. Because that could have been 10 years from now. That could have been the next $100,000 game. So, unfortunately, it's, I believe, only digital only. But if you got a hard copy of it, one day soon, you could be a rich person. Been a great show, my friend. You can listen to our back episodes to catch up on where we're at with the top 100-ish movie countdown. But if you're on Facebook Live, you're seeing it right now. You're seeing all the great stuff that we're doing. Super BS Gamescast, Lakers Fast Break, the Pop Culture Cosmos, the PCC Multiverse, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, all the articles, all the reviews. You've got 2 reviews. One's coming up, I think, with Jurassic Park. You did one with Alan Wake. You did one on anime. Just a ton of stuff on pop culture coming up right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Yes, a lot of cool content coming out. Just talking with Gerald before the show started, working on something really special right now. We'll be able to talk about that more later. But yeah, lots of great stuff on the website, www.popculturecosmos.com.
I cannot thank enough both Rafaels for being on the show today, and of course you as always. Any last thoughts on the way out?
I don't want to say too much. You know, I might be tempted to spill some secrets that are not ready to be divulged yet. So I think I'm good right now.
Shh. It's a secret. It's a secret indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great